What's going on? My name is Dustin Smith, better known as Bones, and welcome to BonesyTV, where today we're going to be diving into the specs of my new custom true HAZRDUS PX4 goalie gear. I'm so excited about this. So it's been well over 2 years now since I got my hands on a new set of goalie gear, and yeah, needless to say, I'm very excited to be diving into this new set, the HAZRDUS PX4. Now, of course, we know all the major details about the new HAZRDUS line. It is a continuation of the L20.2, and it has that flat-faced, more modern look compared to the Catalyst line, which features the knee rolls. But the big thing with this set for me is that I'm using this as an opportunity to try a lot of these new specs that are coming out with the HAZRDUS line, and specs that I've never really had a chance to try out before. So as we take a look at all of these specs, you'll see how this is kind of a little bit of a departure from what I'm used to using in my 12.2 set. But let's not waste any more time here. All right, let's just go ahead and dive into it, starting with, of course, the blocker. I mean, look at this thing. It's beautiful. So right away, looking at the colors of the blocker here, I added white into this set, and I haven't rocked white on a set of pads since my first custom set of pads that I got in the CCM eFlex 3s. But I obviously stuck with the Preds colors here. I added a little bit of silver in there as well. It is the Preds 25-year anniversary, so I thought this would be kind of a cool little touch going back to those old school colors that they have. But let's go ahead and dive right into the specs, starting with the 615 model, or as I'm going to be calling it, the 615 model, because being here in Nashville, the area code is 615. So the 615 was kind of, I don't know, it was almost too perfect. I mean, how could I pass that up, right? Now again, this is a new spec specifically for True, but also a new spec for myself, obviously. And a telltale sign for this is going to be this kind of notch taken out of the corner of the sidewall. And I'm pretty excited to try this out. Another new spec that I'm going with is the Sure Grip on the palm. I usually go with the Nash material. And right away when you put it on, I do feel like the fingertip, the pointer finger, is a little bit thicker there, mostly because it's kind of doubled up right there on that pointer finger. I don't know if you can tell. That Sure Grip material kind of goes up and adds as a double layer there on that pointer finger. Of course, I did go with the straight finger protection, which is a spec that has been a recurring theme for myself. But one thing I did want to point out with this HAZRDUS blocker is the reinforced piece here in the corner, which is a very typical wear spot for these true blockers. And it looks like they have doubled down in that area, adding some extra protection for that typical wear spot. But nothing too crazy here with the blocker. We got the half-piece cuff, and like I said, went with the 615 spec and changing things up, going with the Sure Grip material on the palm. Moving into the glove, this is kind of a big change for me personally. I've normally been a 590 guy, and here I'm moving into the 580. Now, I've tried 580s before in the past, but I've never actually owned one myself, so I'm very interested to see how the 580 will compare to the 590. Again, something that I've been rocking for a very long time now. And as far as the protection went with the Pro Palm on the inside, something that I feel like you get a lot of versatility with. Yes, you get a lot of protection, but also, as you can see, you get some really good closure right out of the box. And of course, looking at the T here, we got the double T. Pay no attention to the string that is still attached here that I use for all of the B-roll footage. But yeah, not a lot to report here in the glove other than the change moving into the 580 from the 590. And then of course, the one thing that I do want to kind of call out is the finger protection over here. This is now a Velcro piece and it opens up. So just a cool little feature added here with the HAZRDUS line. But of course, let's move into the meat and potatoes of this video, diving into all these specs of my new leg pads. So again, a big thing with this entire set, the HAZRDUS PX4, I'm testing out a lot of new features. And one of the newest features with the HAZRDUS pads is that thin, extra stiff thigh rise. And of course, we saw the thin thigh rise on the Catalyst pad, something that I had a chance to try when I tried out Scott Wedgwood's Catalyst pads when I went to go visit Chris Dudo a while back. But now moving from my L12.2 into this HAZRDUS pad, it'll be pretty cool to see how that thinned out thigh rise feels in comparison. As far as sizing with this pad, I went with a 34+2, same size as I had with my L12.2, so I have a feeling I'm going to get a very similar fit. I feel like I'm pretty dialed in as far as the fit is concerned, but with my L12.2, those pads were the perfect fitting pad. I had never had a pad that fit as well as my 12.2. So it'll be really interesting to see how the fit on the HAZRDUS translates from that previous line. Of course, we can see looking here, I went with the single break outer roll. This is another spec that I've been rolling with for a very long time now. I really like how the break in this roll kind of breaks the pad in half almost. You really get a good break at the knee, good flex there. And I'm really hoping that even with the extra stiff thigh rise, I'm gonna get some really good flex here at the middle of the pad like I have in all of my previous pads, but with that extra stiffness up at top, I'm really hoping that just kind of keeps everything nice and rigid. You know, you're not getting any of that torsional twist, which is something that I have yet to experience in my 12.2s, and then of course going back to my 20.1s. So this is a spec that I have kind of stuck with, something that I'm very familiar with, and that I'm hoping really works well with some of these new specs that I'm trying out. But of course, another spec that I did not change or move away from is here at the boot. I went with that regular angle boot instead of the open boot, and this is just kind of one of those specs that I can't change. I can't move away from. I've tried other pads that have kind of that steeper angle, and it's really something that I just kind of, I don't know, I can't really get into it. After playing in this boot angle for so long, this is just kind of, this feels like home, and this is something that I really want to stick with. So as far as the boot angle is concerned, this is a spec that is absolutely locked in for me, and we see it again here on this HAZRDUS pad. But as far as the boot flex, we went with the mid stiff as opposed to the flex, which is a spec that I usually go with. So again, we're gonna try to see how this feels in comparison to some older pads, and I'm really kind of hoping, again, it keeps things nice and sturdy. You're not gonna get any of that twisting in the boot, which is something that I haven't really experienced in my previous pads either. You know, you have to go back to my eFlex 3 pads to really get a feeling of this twist at the boot. But having a nice sturdy boot while also getting some good flex is something that I really like. But we'll see how things go with this mid-stiff boot. Now moving on to the back of the pad, talking about strapping. I really like this recessed knee, no outer flaps or anything like that, a big open area for my big knee guards that I like to wear. And then I also stuck with a leather strap, just kind of a call back to that old school leather strap style. But this is a spec that I've again had for a very long time, and honestly, when it comes down to it, I'm probably going to remove this nylon strap because I have this leather strap here. I feel like it's almost redundant at this point to have two straps coming off of the knee block and attaching just below the knee. So this kind of gives me options to kind of play around with. I can take the nylon strap out, I can leave it there if I want, but we'll kind of see how things feel when I start playing in this set and see if that's something that I'm going to end up removing. But of course, moving down the pad, we have the same FRS system that we've seen in all of these true pads. And this is a strapping setup that I've been very happy with in the past. You get plenty of customizability, being able to change the length of these straps at the top and the bottom of the FRS system. Boom, there's no guessing, there's no like trying to figure out if you placed it in the right spot or not. Once you get it locked in, it's locked in and you're good to go. One thing that I am a little concerned about though is just how yellow it is back here. I mean, this is the most color that I've had on the back of a pad. I usually try to keep it pretty dark because, you know, after a while it gets that wear and tear, it gets kind of gross, and I'm not really looking forward to how this is gonna look after wearing it for a while. But I mean, looking at it right now, it absolutely pops. You know what I mean? I mean, looking at it over here in this other camera angle, and just on the camera here, it's insane how much color just pops off the back of this pad. But we'll see how that looks over time. Moving into the bottom of the boot, this is again a very flat tabletop design that True has been going with. So a lot of people like to ask me how I get my pad to sit so high up on my leg. And really, it just kind of comes down to the bottom of this boot with how flat it is. You're not getting any kind of channel in this area, so the pad has an opportunity to kind of like sink in over your skate. This is a very flat bottomed pad. And then of course with the FRS system, I have it strapped up so that it just kind of, I don't know, naturally sits a little bit higher up on my leg. But another thing is the amount of slack that you have on your toe ties. I used to like a ton of slack, like a ridiculous amount of slack. And then over the years, I've kind of dialed it back down a bit. But new to the HAZRDUS pad and new to myself, obviously, is this new push toe tie system that True has released. At first glance, this kind of seems like the best of both worlds in the toe tie world, I guess. Obviously you have skate lace here, and then it turns into bungees right at the attachment. So it'll be interesting to see how this fits with my skates and everything like that. But then at the toe itself, you have things stitched in. So you already have some slack built into the skate lace, and it looks like it might be a little short to what I'm used to. But you know, the cool thing about this is you can add more slack to it just by going back and adding those knots like you normally would when you have a set of laces as your toe ties. Then of course we don't have a bootstrap here. I took the bootstrap off years ago, and I've been playing without it for so long, and you know, no need to have that there, where I think the entire industry seems to be doing that as like a stock option. You know, the bootstrap has kind of disappeared altogether, and it almost looks like it's a custom spec to even have the bootstrap added in there. But there you have it, my True HAZRDUS PX4 glove, blocker, and leg pads. A few new specs here and there that I'm going to be trying out and see how they feel compared to my L12.2. I'm obviously very excited to finally get these on the ice now that I've done this video, but let me know what you think about this set. I mean, the graphic itself, I think, looks pretty good. I know that's kind of a hot topic with this HAZRDUS line, but let me know if this is the kind of pad that you yourself would rock. Thanks so much for watching, and of course, we'll see you around.